Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay, dokes. I hope I'm audible and I am visible. We apologize for that initial glitch. Let me go back to my screen. I'll go from the beginning. Great. So let me be sure that everyone is hearing me. Give me a second, please. So this is the issue with technology when you are using two different screens. Here in the US, we use two screens or more than that sometimes. And sometimes the whole thing just has a mind of its own. Okay, but I believe everyone is hearing me. Okay, welcome to today's webinar. We had to do the initial intro for the sake of those who haven't met with me yet. My screen is on my left-hand side, but I'm going to be facing you guys here. So I'm super excited to be a part of this webinar to talk about branding, which is very critical in today's economic landscape, either as a corporate brand or as a business brand. It is very important for us, to pay a lot of attention to our brand. And considering the fact that I have done business for well over like 17 years, the bulk of the successes I would say that I have achieved, I would attribute to the emphasis I place on personal brand and business brand. So as we're going through this presentation, by the end of the webinar, the focus is for us to be able to understand the scope of the concept of brand and what branding is. Define what your values are, what your objectives are, your mission statement, understand the components of a brand energy, identify your differentiators. That's a very important slide that I look forward to sharing with you, because within these 10 different categories, you will be able to categorically say where your strengths lies. And then talking about the identity, to identify your strategies, understand how to improve your brand perception, the issue of technology, which is very important today, and social media, and then business opportunities and growth tips to grow your business, and then we'll leave the rest for the Q&A session. So what is a brand? You know that when a lot of people hear about brand, I think before we start that, I would like to, let me see. Okay, I'll just go into that. Okay, so when you say what a brand is, a lot of people think it's really about your logo, your name, your colors, your fonts, your designs, and all of that. But the truth of the matter is your brand is really that intangible thing that people cannot really explain. It's a combination of different things that makes up for who you are and what you are. When you are engaging with certain brands, you're already thinking in your head, okay, how would the experience be because of how you have interacted with them over time? And you are able to say whether the experiences for the most part will be positive or otherwise. So when you talk about brand, this has really broken it down into 5 main segments. So you talk about your blueprint, which is your master plan. What do you want your customer experience to be? And as we're going through this session, what I would really like is for you to start personalizing all of these notes and to see how it applies to your business. I'd like you to have a pen and a paper to jot down certain things, because I'd like you to share some of the ideas you come up with in the Q&A session, in the Q&A section of the webinar, so that we can see, because we'll get to the point whereby maybe you didn't have a brand vision before, but based on what we're saying, you're coming up with some ideas in your head. Okay, what are my objectives? What is my mission? So it's important that as we are going through this, you are asking yourself and you are introspecting to see what areas of improvement will be in your business. So talking about the B of the brand, we'll start with the blueprint. What is your blueprint? What is your purpose statement? Meaning, why are you even existing in the first place? For us, for example, I'll be using a lot of personal experiences. For us in smart gas, we're in the downstream gas sector, and you're saying you want to use technology. You want to use technology to make cooking gas accessible to people in 36 states in Nigeria plus the FCT. How do I go about that? So if that is the big vision, there has to be a blueprint in whatever it is that you're doing. What exactly do you want the customer experience to be? And then talk about relationship. Now, in terms of relationship, this is really more of an emotional thing, because you would agree with me that a lot of people are emotional buyers. People will buy from you because they know you, because they like you, because they like your pets, because they feel your daughter is cute. There's just different reasons why people will want to buy from you. So in terms of a brand, the thoughts, the feeling, the psychological relationship between your business, and the customer, what is it supposed to be? In terms of, if they leave you, what will they feel after experiencing your brand? It's very important. And then we talk about the agreement, which is your brand promise. What are you promising that when people encounter you? So for example, am I saying that we'll always deal with you with utmost integrity? Am I saying that we'll always be professional in whatever we do? And of course, if I'm saying that we'll always be professional, it means that you cannot come up with a tacky font. So you want to send an email to them. You're making sure that your email is well written. Your letterhead, you're making sure that you are putting the right punctuations, you're making sure that the fonts are right, the spacing is right. So professionalism comes in every way they get in contact with your brand. Are you professional about it? So you have to understand, what is the agreement? What do you want people to see when they encounter your brand? And then you talk about the nature. The nature now talks about the personality, the character, the style, what distinguishes you from the other person. And then you talk about the distinctive brand that makes your business stand out from the crowd in terms of what is your unique selling proposition. Now, in terms of the nature of your business, let me just mention, there you will have things like what your logo is, what are your colors, what is your tagline, what is the logo design. For some people, it's not important for you to have a design in terms of your logo. Your business name can actually be your logo, but that's a totally different webinar on its own. So this broadly speaks to the different areas of your brand that you really need to look into. And then you now scale it down to know what steps to take in terms of achieving this. Now, I just put this here as a teaser because for all of us, I'm sure one way or the other, we have encountered these brands. When I want to search for anything, I first of all go on Google. Now, depending on what I want to search for, I go on YouTube. When you're thinking of what to drink, people are saying Coca-Cola, do you have Coke? Even sometimes they're referring to another brand, a competitive brand. They will still say, oh, is there Coke? Is there? And then for us here in America, for example, in Amazon, you're thinking, okay, if I want to order something in Amazon, if I order it early enough this morning, before evening, I'm going to get it. So I'm thinking speed, I'm thinking operational efficiency, I'm thinking convenience, so that is really where you want to get to in terms of being a brand. And the good news, honestly, is the fact that technology and social media has made it an even playing field for the big brands, for the startups, for the micro businesses, and even for the macro businesses, because now everybody can put content online. It's an advantage and it's a disadvantage, because then you see a lot of artists, a lot of celebrities, at least we see that a lot in America, where a lot of celebrities are telling you that because of the ease of providing content now, they are not really seen, their roles are not as important, because now people come up with skits, they come up with very short series. Somebody's in their house just filming themselves with their dog, and it goes viral. So there's so much content for customers to watch. So that's the downside, because now customers become insatiable. You are providing A, somebody else is providing B, and they're thinking, okay, should I go for the B or a bit of A or a bit of B? So that is why it is important that wherever you are in business, whether you're just a startup or you are an existing business or you are a grounded business, is important for you to pay a lot of attention on your brand, because even the big brands are doing it. So who are you to say you will not? So that's the good thing about technology and social media. It allows you to get a normal level of visibility. And then we'll talk about other tips that can allow you get more visibility. So what is branding? Branding is just really about the process of creating that brand. So it's an action word. Branding is a journey into getting that your strong brand that you're trying to create for your business. So as it says here, branding is the process of creating a strong, positive perception of your company and the products in the minds of your customers. So the act of branding, I keep saying, of course, as a leadership in your business, the primary responsibility is yours to decide, what is my brand? And everything you do about that product or service must constantly talk about the brand and fulfill that brand promise. So the brand on its own is different. Then the branding is the process of achieving that brand that you have in your mind. And then we talk about brand strategy. All of this is about strategy. And that's why strategy is key in everything you do, which is why sometimes you are in a line of business, somebody else is in a similar line of business, and they seem to be doing a bit well or a bit better than you. Quite honestly, it might just be about the strategy. And strategy is not in the big things, I tell you. Because the advantage of small businesses, which I believe that most of us here are small and medium businesses, is the fact that we have limited funds. So you typically would not want to throw money at every challenge. Because if I were to use myself as an example, when I started business, I had to be creative by force because my first employee really was my cleaner. So I had to make sure that because I didn't have disposable money to throw at everything, if I encountered a problem, I'll first of all think, okay, what's the best way for me to go about it? But money will always not be the first choice. So I'm trying to say for small, medium businesses, adaptability is a very good thing because you are easily able to strategize or re-strategize when you think that something is working or it's not working. But you can imagine if you were to now do it in a big company, like maybe a financial institution or an oil and gas company, before it goes through all the bureaucracies and all of that, you as a small business would have been able to change the scales. So that actually even works in your favor in this business terrain and business landscape. So your strategy really is the long-term plan for what the brand will build its reputation on and the methods that you would use in building it. Now, I have identified 5 core components of what your brand strategy would look like. So we talk about your values. And then the vision, we talk about your mission statements, we talk about your objectives, and about the promises. In between the mission and the objectives, we have the goals. I'll mention the goals. But the way I want you to look at it is look at it backwards. So starting from the promise is what you have to do to get to the objectives. The objectives is what you have to do to get to the goals. The goals will help with the mission will help with the vision, and then the vision back to the values. So while I talk about each one, understand the fact that each one is critical because as you then break it down, it now tells you how to achieve the overall vision of the company and what your brand values are. So we'll start with the brand values. Now, this is an example of what your brand value would look like. And like I said, start taking notes because for those of you who are in business already, you should be able to say, what are my values? Regardless of the business that you're doing, if you're, for example, it's easy for me to always use smart gas, because that's our company or Trade Expo Africa, you're asking yourself, if you say integrity is key, it means that in whatever it is that you do, you must make sure that whether you're the one that is at fault or not, you are willing to say, oh, we're sorry for this mistake. This is what happened. Because a lot of customers understand the fact that you're human. So it's not really about being wrong, which is something that I see a lot from small businesses. We are always so defensive when a customer comes at us and says, oh, they express their displeasure. Because if you don't get this feedback, how are you going to improve your processes? So you have to have a system that accepts feedbacks, embraces feedbacks, because that's the only way that you can do better. And Rome wasn't built in a day. It's okay to make mistakes. There are several times in my business whereby I've owned up to a mistake, when I used to do branding and then maybe I printed something and it did not come out in the corporate color of that company. I'll tell them that, what, I said I was going to deliver on Friday, but because when I finished the production, this did not conform with your brand colors and this, can you give me 1 week, 2 weeks? Honestly, they appreciated it. So it's important for you to ask yourself, what are your values? What are your values? In this example, it says empathy. So for somebody, maybe if you're in the healthcare sector, it would occur to me that you talk about empathy, and then you're saying integrity. For every business, honestly, I think every business should definitely have that. And then talk about unity. We're the strongest when we work together as a team. So understand that your values are things that could be internal, and could be external. For every business as well, unity is something that is critical. They say teamwork makes the dream work. So it's very important for you to know to sit down, to articulate what your values are, because that is what will really help you. And of course, when you now identify what your values are, the fundamentals that motivate you to make those decisions, then you now start talking about the specific actions, and the task that would help you to achieve it. And these actions and tasks are measured using the key performance indicators. And we'll go more into that. And of course, your values must be constant. So today your values, because sometimes we like all these definitions and these words in our heads, and then today your values is empathy, and tomorrow you're thinking I change it to sympathy, and next tomorrow you're thinking no, because understand the fact that everything is a build-up from what your brand promise is. So back to what I said about the leadership, it is important for you to make sure that you have clear vision as to what your brand promises, and you sell that vision to your team. I hope I'm not going too fast. Now, talking about your vision and mission, remember I talked about what your brand values are. And those values could be what you want your internal team to know and what you want your customers to know and feel about you. So it's a combination of both. Now, for the vision, it tells your audience where you want to go tomorrow. For me, I keep saying it. Your vision is that audacious goal, that big goal that you're saying in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, this is where I want to be. I can't answer that question for you. You are the one that would have to say where you want to be. And of course, I'm talking really about the business brand. I will talk a bit about the personal brand almost at the end of the webinar, but now the focus really is on building your business, a strong business brand. So for you, whether you are a budding entrepreneur or you're already a business owner, you have to know what your vision is. And if your vision is something that you quickly achieve, then it wasn't big enough. Because most times, a lot of vision is actually long-term, really long-term, which of course, over time is easier. You can always scale it. You can re-strategize based on the terrain, based on where you find yourself, based on customer requests, based on needs changing, based on so many things. But it's important at every point in time to know what your vision is. It has to be clear, it has to be achievable, and it has to be long-term. And then we talk about the mission. The mission tells your audience where your company is focusing on presently. So the mission is actually it's not as audacious as your vision, but it's a breakdown of your mission that allows you to achieve what the vision is. For this, there's so many thin lines in how people interpret it, in how they understand it, and in how they define their company vision and mission. But what I want you to take out of this is your vision is that very big, audacious goal. That's not where you're finding yourself in the next 1 year, 2 years or whatever. They're your 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan. I want to start my business in, Lagos and Houston. I want to extend it into other states. I want to go intra-African, I want to start collaborating with this person. So it could be anything to anybody, depending on what your sector is. So you have to be able to apply it, but all of these things guide you. It's important for those of us who do business in our head, trust me, that's not the way for you to achieve growth. Because now that we're talking about brand energy, is because you want to use it to scale your business. So when you really want to talk about scaling your business, you have to do something out of the ordinary, because excellence of those days are standards today. And that's why you have to have it as a visionary, clear on paper, always going back to it to ensure that everything that you're doing is aligned with that vision. And of course, I talked about what the mission is, it's just a step down to what your vision is. And sometimes your mission statement can be one statement. Sometimes it can be more than that. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on, where you see yourself and what you'd want to do. Now, this slide talks about the vision statements of some of the popular brands that we know. So for Nike, he says to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. So typically, I'm sure a lot of us, when you watch a lot of sporting activities and things like that, you see that Nike is a sponsor, you are wearing a Nike shoes. There's something about the feeling, there's a way that they have attributed and associated the Nike symbol to athletes. So everything that they do regarding that always goes back to what their vision statement is. Disney says to be the world's leading producer and provider of entertainment and information. So looking at all of this, it just tells you what your vision statement can look like. Tesla says to create the most compelling electric company of the 21st century. So these are some of the vision statements that we have here as examples. And then I'll go to the mission statements. Let's see. We have a chat here. Okay. Okay. My timekeeper is telling me I have 20 minutes into the presentation already. Well, that's fine. Yeah, we're getting there. So the mission statement, Apple talks about to challenge the status quo, to think differently. And you would agree, it's a status thing. A lot of people, when they feel, oh, I'm using an Apple, I'm sure we see it on social media, where some people are saying, oh, you're using Android, I'm using Apple. So they've created that intangible feeling, association with their brand, that when you're using their products, you're kind of like more hip or more tech savvy and things like that. And remember, it's an aggregate of everything I told you at the beginning in terms of what the word brand represents, in terms of their blueprint, their relationship, their agreements, the nature and the distinctive nature of what their product is or their service. Coca-Cola talks about to refresh the world and inspire moments of optimism and happiness. We see that all the time. And of course, looking at Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. I'm sure I keep saying it is one of my favorite slangs. I say Google is your friend. For me, I type everything on Google. Sometimes when I'm even going for meetings and somebody says something, whether it's a Zoom meeting or something, and I don't know what that word is, or I don't know who that person is, I'm already going on Google to look for it. Google will give you the good, the bad, the ugly. So for those of you who are not Google's best friend, if we are going to take anything away from this meeting, please, you have to reconcile with Google, because it really does make you look smart. So that's it. And then Starbucks, for all of you that you are coffee drinkers in America and even around the world, Starbucks, they've built a brand for themselves that when you're drinking Starbucks, then you know what's up when it comes to coffee. So these are some of their mission statements, and you have to start coming up with what your mission statement is. Okay, and then, oopsie. The next one is your goals versus your objectives. These are an example of what goals and objectives are. I mentioned the other time, I didn't put goals in that diagram, but I talked about, after the mission, I talked about the objectives. But your goals, this is a typical example, I think is quite self-explanatory, because when you now know what your mission is, you now say, what are my corporate goals? How do I want to achieve this mission? So a typical example here is to say, you want to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube channel in 12 months. And then the objectives are the most specific ways that you would use. So you can agree with me that all of this cannot be in your head. Because by the time you're saying that you want to produce 10 videos a month, then you're saying that on the average, a week, I should produce at least 3. If a week has gone by and you haven't produced any video, you already know that you are getting behind on that objective, which will not allow you to achieve that goal. And then you are saying, in my week 2, I must do a minimum of 5 or 6 to catch up for that. So it's very important for you to have clearly defined goals and objectives. And that is what this slide talks about. And like I mentioned, at the end of this video, I would like some of you to share some of the things that you have come up with. You have the opportunity to just say, okay, what you do in your business. You can type, I'm in this so and so business, and these are some of the things I've come up with regarding so it's nice for us to share those experiences. So for the objectives, goals and objectives, this is what it is. The goal is also a bit more broader than what the objectives are, but the objectives are very specific as to how you are going to do it, even to the point of when you are going to do it. And then your brand promise. I use the example of IKEA. For those of us who know IKEA, IKEA is known for building simple, affordable furniture. You can set up a whole home and you use IKEA products by just assembling. So they always build pre-assembled products. They are really known for that. They'll put the user guide there, and then you bring your couch home, you assemble it yourself. You bring your table home, you assemble it yourself at affordable prices. They have built a brand around that. So you have to ask yourself, what is your brand promise? It describes the experience you deliver to your customers. And irrespective of the industry, breaking brand promises immediately impacts the credibility of your business, which is very important. Because like I mentioned, there are so many brands out there now. So the competition is extremely steep. Sometimes we are lucky to get a second chance or a third chance. And remember, that person next door to you is doing the exact same thing that you're doing. So it's important for you to try as much as possible to be consistent in your brand delivery, because that can make or break the brand. And then I'll talk about the role of your team as well, because of course, growing your business means you don't want it to be a one-man band. You want to do it in addition with people. It means that everybody must have the same shared vision and values. So it's very important for you to know, regardless of your industry, try as much as possible to avoid breaking your brand promises. And if for whatever reason you broke it, that's where customer service comes in. Exceptional customer service will save your business a whole lot of headache. So that's very important. And then your actions and tactics demonstrates your brand promises. Now I talk about brand energy. All of this is really self-explanatory. So there's so much talk about brand this, brand that, brand equity. Some of them have very similar meanings and all that, but in terms of brand energy, it just means that what is the weight that your brand carries. And it's just a combination of all of this, some of which I have spoken about already, in my previous slides. The look and the feel. The look and the feel is just really about now all your marketing collaterals. What is your logo like? What is your font like? What are your colors? What is your brand promise? What is your tagline? For us in Smart Gas, our tagline is technology, people, possibilities. And they are saying technology because our mobile app and in so many things that we're doing, we're leveraging technology. And then it's for the people. It's a retail business. It's a retail sector. From the comfort of your home, you can buy gas. And of course, when there's technology, when you have people, there's so many possibilities. I'm sure you always hear the fact that if technology is incorporated into anything, there's hardly anything you cannot achieve. So now that I'm saying that, I'd always like to implore my audience, anywhere you can incorporate technology in your business, kindly embrace it, because that's the era we are now. And technology is not really in the fact that you have to develop an app. It's not in the fact that you have to have a software for your business. It's just really about working smart. For some of us, how well do you use emails? How well do you use online receipts, online invoices? How well do you use a Google Drive? How do you guys work amongst your team members? So it's really, there's so many existing templates right now that we can use. So don't really get overwhelmed and think that it's really about the big things and all. No, it's not really about that. So we talk about the look and the feel, the brand story. I'm sure I've mentioned that, in my previous slides. Brand engagement. How do people engage with your brand? Is it on social media? When they open it, they see what you're doing in your company? Do you have a social media presence? So when people click on your page, what are the things that they see? Because sometimes you see some people saying that, this is what I do. A lot of people don't even know that this is what I do. And then you go to their page and maybe out of 10 posts, 2 of the posts is based on what they do. So most of the engagements that people are seeing on your social media handles are not really focused on your brand. For us in Smart Gas, we have a Smart Gas page. We have a Trade Expo Africa page. I have my personal page. On my personal page, sometimes I post on Smart Gas, I post on TechServe, but I also post on my personal, journey as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a business person, and all that. But the point is, we have a business page on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Yeah. So it's very important, depending on what your business is. You are not in the era whereby I've heard so many people saying, I'm not used to social media. I don't know these things. I don't know what kind of business you're running and if it's working out for you, but things are changing. So whether or not you like it, you have to embrace what changes. So how are people engaging with your brand? Is your brand the type that you do deliveries to people? Do you have a delivery truck? How are your delivery guys? How cautious are they? Some of you in Nigeria will attest to the fact that some delivery guys, sometimes when they call on the phone, I'm thinking, where is your customer service and all that? So how are people engaging with your brand? whatever industry you are in catering. How are they encountering your brand? What's your presentation like? What's your taste like? What's the consistency like? It's just a lot of all those kind of things. And then the brand equity. Brand equity is from the perspective of the customer. It just means that what does this customer feel about your brand, such that maybe when they come today and they realize that, okay, say I have 10 minutes, yeah, and they realize that there was something that was inconsistent about your brand today, but they're willing to forgive you because over time, you have been so consistent that you have built a lot of equity in the mind of the customer that they would say, oh, okay, no, this is just a one-off. We're willing to forgive this person. So like I mentioned, it's important for you to look at what your brand equity is. And the only way you can have brand equity is when you are consistent. And then your brand presence, where are you present? Depending on your business, all these slides, when I finish sharing these slides, I'd like you guys to go back, and have a look at it, and really see where, your business plays and where it fits in all of this. We've talked about the brand promise, brand voice. I remember sometimes when we're doing some videos, in Smart Gas, and our PR and our media person uses some songs that I think they're too vulgar, in trying to demonstrate. And we're like, no, we can't use it. So it's important what's the voice of yours. So you can't be careless as the brand owner in terms of what the voice is. What are you communicating? What do people hear when they see it, talk about your brand, when you're not there is very important. So those are the things that will help you to build very strong brand energy. Yes. And then, sorry, next one. Now, this is a place whereby I would like you guys to really focus on after this. I can see that Christopher's hand is up. Just give me a minute. So looking at this, it's very important for you to know where you play. And this is what differentiates your business. Some of you can play in one or two or more, but it is important for you to know where you play in all of this. Operational effectiveness. Maybe that's where you play because you have to have a unique selling proposition. In Smart Gas, one of the challenges of the industry is that people have different prices when it comes to gas. You go and sell supply to someone, they'll say, oh, we are buying it at 200 per kg. We are buying it at this. And I tell my team, if you are negotiating based on lower price all the time, you are on a fast race to the bottom because then you reduce your prices and then the next person reduces their prices. And then what do? Will you continue to reduce your prices? No. Because then you look at some brands like a Lamborghini. Lamborghini will not even advertise, let alone reducing their prices. Likewise, you go to a Gucci store. Likewise, you even go to a normal retail store. So you have to ask yourself, what is my unique selling proposition? So when I think about operational efficiency, I'm thinking about an Amazon. I'm thinking about, I'm looking at speed. I'm looking at DHL, FedEx. You're looking at quality, personalization. There's this restaurant in America. It's called Denny's. Denny's is like an IHOP for those of them who know it. So they promise breakfast 24/7. So whether you're coming at night, you're coming at midnight, you're coming at any time, they'll offer you that breakfast, which is like pancakes, sausage, bacon. So what exactly is it about your brand that differentiates you? Information advantage. When I say information advantage, it's about the fact that because you know certain information, you are able to leverage it. The banks, for example, a lot of my friends that started business, they started working in the banks because they now have the opportunity to meet almost every type of business owner. They see the person selling this and that, and they're able to, use that information, to look for something to differentiate themselves. Technology and innovation, we kind of overemphasize that. That allows you to scale immediately, and it's a game changer. Adaptability, I talked about it initially when I was talking about how smaller businesses are able to adapt to change when they see that customer taste is changing and all of that. So let me quickly round, talking about building the dream team. Like I mentioned, it's very important. You can't do anything without your team. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So it's important for you to see how you can get a good team together. And these are some of the strategies of building a good team. I'm sure we can quickly look through it, talking about defining and communicating the vision. And we talk about the values, value diversity. I always tell my team members during the interviews, you're not coming to an organization where it's about, oh, what did the boss say? What are you bringing to the table before you come and tell me a problem? What is the solution you are preferring? So diversity is very important. Stay organized. Communication is key. And of course, you empower and retain. So that's very important. These are some of the tips on how you can improve your brand perception. Create distinct visual identity. I talked about that. Feedback is so critical, guys. Feedback is so critical. Please embrace it. When people give you feedback, listen to them. It doesn't mean they're not going to do business with you again. They're expressing something to you so that you can do it better and then be better next time. So please embrace feedback and optimize user-generated content. If you're doing a business whereby there's user content, for us, when we're delivering our gas, we're filming it. When somebody is using the gas, we are filming it. So there's so much that you can do if your business is that type that you can generate user-generated content, testimonials from your customers, all those kind of things will help you with content. And I've talked about social media. It's important for you because things have evolved into it says that they have since evolved into some of the most powerful digital marketing tools available to brands. So a lot of brands use social media now. So it's important for us to hop on that train, decide on which one is most meaningful for your business, and then decide which one. And these are some of the very popular ones. Like I said, we use Instagram, Facebook, we use Twitter, we use LinkedIn, YouTube, and all that. Depending on your kind of business, Pinterest might make sense to you, Snapchat might make sense to you, and all that good stuff. And these are opportunities for growth. If your brand is strong, people know you for that. A strong brand is designed to get people to buy more, pay more, make quicker purchasing decisions. When your brand is consistent, people are less sensitive on price. That's the truth. Never think that you have to lower your price for you to get business because everybody will not be your market in the first place. Understand that. So it's important for you to build a strong brand, and that's when you have brand advocates and loyalists. And yeah, pretty much this talks about the same thing. And these are the tips that I put together on how to grow your business, after you have built or you are building a strong brand. The leadership, it all starts from that. Collaborations is very important. That's the new language of business. Don't think that you have to do it alone. Look at other complementary businesses that you can go and speak with. Can we collaborate on this? Can we do that? Digital marketing. What are the marketing tools that you're using? How are you doing your email marketing? How are you doing your broadcasts? All of that. Social media, we talked about it. Referrals is important. Word of mouth. People say that it's still the strongest way of marketing. Word of mouth. Let people refer somebody to you. Ask for business. It's so important. Innovation and creativity, strong team. Take risk. Calculated risk. Take risk is very important. Nothing happens when you have, in status quo mode. Identify and take advantage of opportunities and invest in and leverage in your network. You're only as strong as your network. And I say there's a difference between your contact list and your network. Your contact list are those that you just have their numbers on your phone, but when you call them, they don't pick it. That's not your network. Your network are those that you can reach out to and they'll be of help to you. So you have to invest in that and you have to leverage it. And I said you are the leadership, it's your primary responsibility to promote your brand. It's not that person you hired. It's not that accountant. It's not that brand manager. It is you. It is you. And then it scales down to others. It is you. So if you don't have enough information in that or experience, you have to go and build it. And go for trainings, to build that brand, to understand what it is. Now I'm going to speak briefly on personal brands because we have talked about the business brand. Now I have just about 3 or 4 more slides. We've talked about the business brand. At the end of the day, like I said, it's about the leadership. So for you, it's important, who are you as a person? When people see you, when people hear about you, when they talk about you when you're not there, what do they say about you? It's very important, either as a mom, a father, a friend, whatever it is, what are you known for? Are you that reliable person? Are you that consistent person? Are you that person who is very diligent? Are you that person who pays attention to detail? Are you that person who is a good team player? Who are you? What do people say about you is very important. I put all these people there just so that I'm sure when you see them, something comes to mind. And that's what I'm talking about. It's important for you to know who you are as a person and build that brand. And then I also use these ones, because depending on what sector you are, it will let you know how to project yourself. So I use Davido, who is a Nigerian artist. It's actually a global artist, but because it's in the entertainment industry, it's allowed for them to dress the way they are. They have a lot of chains, they have this, they have that. And then they're not misjudged when they go somewhere because they're like, why is he dressed like that? Oh, he's an entertainer. Oh, okay, no wonder he's an artist. Oh, you get what I mean? So you have to really know what industry you are because you will be addressed the way you are dressed. However, the likes of all these artists too, when they're going to certain places, remember they don't have to dress like this. Then they wear suits or they wear something that resonates with the audience that they're going to meet. It's very important for you to be able to know how to project yourself. And of course, I use the guy on the left here as an IT person. Now, the truth of the matter is that with his dreads, in some places, a lot of people feel, oh, for him to have that dreads, yeah, he must be very good with this and that. But trust me, in certain terrains, it might also disqualify him. So it's important for you to know the environment you are and how to project yourself. That's my message. I talked about the medical professional, even though she's wearing her overall, she's wearing a shirt, nicely dressed. The security person, I use my picture, of course, that you can also dress semi-formal. You don't have to wear suits and all that. This guy right here can either be a, banker, he can be working in a fashion store or anything, but it's important for you to just know that you will be addressed the way you are dressed. And how do you want to project your personal brand? That's up to you. It's very important. And I think at this point, yes, it's time for question and answer. How well am I doing on time? Miracle, how much time do we have? And let's see. Okay, great. All right. If we have questions, I think at this point I can take it. Let me stop sharing my slides. Like Miracle said, everything will be given to you guys at the end of this. I hope I've stopped sharing my slide. Okay, I'll come here now. My mouse has a mind of its own, I assure you. Okay, so I think we're on to Q&A. Are there any questions? Or did I do a fantastic job that there are no questions? Okay. You guys can't tell me you don't have questions. It's not possible. Okay, docs. Let me see. Okay. I think, let me be sure that I'm seeing everything. Okay, I didn't do badly with the time as well. So do I take it that the webinar was quite informative, that you guys don't have any questions? Or do you guys have any of the points that you have written down that you'd like to share with the rest of us? I'm trying to get my cursor to come back here. Okay, still no questions. I think that, okay. So maybe I'm going to wrap up the webinar if there are no questions. Okay, I think I see one here. Does one have to have a vision before starting a brand? Oh, for sure you have to. For sure you have to. Because if you start a brand, what are you starting it on? If I remember, it starts with what your values are and what your vision is. So regardless of the sector that you are, it's very important for you to definitely have a vision before you start it, because the vision is now where you want to get to. So you have to have that, because that is eventually what will now help you in terms of how to start a business, because you have to have a business or a product before you are saying that I want to build on my brand. So it is extremely important for you to have a vision. I hope that answers that question. Yes. Okay. Please, Ma, I would like more insights about customers' evaluation. Customers evaluation is just really, if I understand your question, is just really about how does a customer feel when they think about your brand or when they see your brand. And that is a function of what your brand promise is. So for example, what comes to mind for me is there are 2 or 3 occasions I've tried to buy something on Instagram, and then you're going to contact the brand owner or the product owner. For some of them, it takes forever for them to respond to you. And then when they eventually respond, they'll respond now. And sometimes it takes about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or even a day before they now get back to you. And then before you eventually now buy the product, it's just not a good experience overall. So if that person were to evaluate your business, you can only imagine, because it's based on their experience. So from what you have said, talking about customer evaluation, it's about how well are you consistent in terms of the promise you have given when people engage with your brand. It is that will now decide how you are being evaluated. And it's just really about, like I said, also about brand equity. What does this customer feel about me? What premium will this customer pay just so that they can patronize me? So the evaluation is a function, of how you have been in terms of when they interact with you. How was it? Was your customer service very professional? When you made a mistake about something, did you call them to say, oh, we realized that this was a mistake. We actually owe you a refund of, $5, $10, even though you overpaid us. What has been the experience, when they interact with you? That is what is going to determine how they're going to evaluate you and how they're going to speak about you to others. Because sometimes what I tell people is that people will easily talk about a bad brand experience and say, oh, you want to buy whatever. No, don't use those people. But when the product is good, they're even less interested in referring, but I'm just trying to say, because bad news is gist, it goes faster. So it's just very important for you to be very careful, in terms of how you are consistently projecting your brand. I think that answers that question. Any more questions? Let's see. Okay, we're still doing good with time. We have about 3 more minutes. It's meant to be a 1-hour webinar, and we like to keep to time. That's part of, talking about the brand, consistency of your brand. It's important for you to, decide on what is important to you and stick by it. So if we don't have, I saw Christopher's hand was up the other time. Maybe I've answered your question, during the line talk of my presentation. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, guys. We hope that you found it very valuable. Like Miracle has said, we will send a feedback form to you. Please, like we said, I embrace feedbacks. Please. And then the feedbacks are going to be anonymous. So please tell us what you feel about our webinar. Tell us areas that you think we can improve. Even tell us topics that you'd like me to talk about. So for me, my areas of strength, and I've been an entrepreneur the whole of my life, adult life, so a lot of experiences I have built. So, and I'm going to be sharing so many, during subsequent webinars. So on strategy, on sales and marketing, on management, on leadership, organizational leadership, on efficient processes, technology, how to scale, just so many things. So if there are topics you'd like us to talk about in the future, please feel free to also mention them, but please respond to our feedback so that we can do better. Thank you very much, everyone. And on that note, would like to end the webinar. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend. Bye.